So, Preston, you hit on one thing that I didn't completely understand about Brent Venables' first season. Okay, he's arguably the best defensive mind in the country. He takes over a marginal defense and they get worse. So, I understand it's not his guys in the lineup, and everybody makes the defense that he's got to get his guys on the roster to play his defense. And it's a difficult defense to learn. And maybe you need more than a full off season, but they did get a full off season. I would think that if he's as good as he's supposed to be, that they should have been better on defense last year.
See, and I would make the argument that Oklahoma was better on defense than people really thought they were.
Okay.
When you go look at the stat board, yeah, they were at the bottom. But if you go back, because I've been going back and watching last season, and I've actually been evaluating this defense. Outside of every game, they would give up big chunk plays. If you take out those big chunk plays, this is a Brent Venables defense. I think the problem is, and I said it all last season, and I was curious at the beginning of the season if we were going to see it. We ultimately did. You have guys from the Lincoln Riley regime who, well, they're used to getting blown out. So what's going to happen when they give up that big chunk play? How are they going to react? And so many times you saw guys with the body language like, here we go again. Like they just expected to give up. Like I think, this last round of guys that hit the portal or ended up leaving, they were pushed in that direction because they either weren't going to start or they weren't buying into what Venables was selling on the defensive side of the ball. But there was, like, if you go back and watch last season, it really just outside of, like, I think the K-State game and the Texas game, it's really just coming down to big chunk plays that killed Oklahoma. If you can clean those up a little bit, and really that comes down to tackling, that's been Oklahoma's biggest problem, and it got better last year, but you've got to be able to wrap the guys up. You can't just go to punch out, which is another thing. If you notice, last year they still at points went for the turnover and didn't go for the tackle. It should be tackle first, then the turnover. And that's that Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch system where they want you to go punch the ball out and they want you to create that turnover. So, yeah, I think a lot of people expected Venables to just completely come in here and turn around a defense. But, I mean, I maybe fell into that trap a little bit. I felt like we all should have reset our expectations and known, okay, like this was probably going to be a 2 or 3 year process. I don't even expect to make group. I'm not expecting to make a big leap this year. I'm saying if they can go to be a top 60 or top 50 defense, and you're just seeing little things on the field like discipline, like that discipline where they're not showing this body language of, all right, well, we just gave up a 40-yard touchdown. Here we go. Or, oh, our offense is putting us back on the field after, a 1 minute and 30-second drive. Here we go. Like, I'm exhausted. I think you're going to see a better defense. Now, the other thing is the team had a lot of depth issues last season, especially at the linebacker position. I think you fixed a lot of that because Samuel Omosigo and Lewis Carter are two guys that I think are going to see playing time for the Oklahoma Sooners as true freshmen. Samuel Omosigo and Lewis Carter, I think, could even be a little bit of cheetah role later on in their careers. So the linebacker position depth, I'm not 100% worried about. I would like to see them maybe go grab another guy out of the portal, maybe a guy that plays in a 3-3-5 defense somewhere that can just bring in a little bit of veteran experience. So maybe Lewis Carter and Samuel Omosigo aren't having to play as much snaps. Maybe you can let them play 4 games and then redshirt them or whatever that looks like. But I'm not as worried about the depth this year. I don't think that's going to be as big of a problem. They really added depth on the defensive line. They've added experience on that defensive line. And then, I mean, gosh, that secondary room, it's literally one of the best rooms on this team by leaps and bounds.